gone through a lot of pain right now. She loves you so much.
So I'm finally sitting down and filming my labor and delivery story. I actually filmed it in January, but I was still learning how to be a mom and adjusting to the mom life, that I didn't put everything in it that I wanted to, and I really want to put like every little detail in it because I want to share my experience exactly how it was. So let's get started, let's get into it, because I want to try and make it as short as I can, but honestly it's going to be a long video. So watch it when you have time, and most of you guys should have time because you guys are supposed to be quarantined, so watch the full video if you want to, you know. Okay, so my daughter is going to be 4 months on the 24th, so she was born in November. So this is how it all started. The night before, she was born on a Sunday. Let's just put that out there. She was born on a Sunday, and I went into early labor Sunday morning at 2 in the morning. The night before, I didn't try to induce my labor, but in a way I tried to, because my due date was going to be that Thursday, and I did not want to go over your due date. Like, I didn't want to go overdue. I just never wanted that to happen, so I was trying everything in my power to make sure she came out. So I walked on the treadmill for about 30 minutes, and I drank like tea. This tea that's supposed to put you into labor, but honestly I don't think it was that, but it could have been, but I don't think so because I drank it like 2 weeks before and it did nothing. So yeah, but basically I did that, and I came home, and I had already been bouncing on like the bouncy exercise ball for about 2 to 3 weeks, so just preparing my body for labor. I started walking a little bit, so I was preparing my body for labor. So at 2 in the morning, Sunday morning, I woke up. I was feeling really hungry, and I ate an Oreo, and my stomach started to hurt really bad, like right after. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I should not be eating in the middle of the night. That's why my stomach is hurting so bad. But obviously it wasn't that. But I thought it was that, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to go back to sleep, you know. So I woke up at 2:30, and I ran to the restroom, and I had to go to the restroom, if you know what I mean. Like, I had to use the bathroom. So my stomach was hurting. I used the bathroom, then I got up and I was like, oh my gosh, why does my stomach hurt so much? Didn't even click in my head, hey, maybe these are contractions, maybe you're in labor. Never clicked in my head. But I was just like, oh, this really, really hurts. Not that it really, really hurt, it was just uncomfortable. Like, I couldn't go back to sleep because it just felt really, really uncomfortable. So then I went to the living room, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, my stomach really hurts. Like, I can't go to sleep. It's just uncomfortable. So I started bouncing on my ball because I heard like that can help like stomach pain and your back pain and all that type of stuff. So I started bouncing on the ball, and 30 minutes later I had to run to the bathroom again because it was still hurting. So this was happening every 15 to 30 minutes, me running to the bathroom. So then I did that for about like 3 hours, and then 5 o'clock came, and I told my mom, I think I might be having contractions because I'm getting like a slight relief, but I get cramps again. Like, they felt like period cramps, which is like what you always hear. They feel like period cramps. In the beginning, they really felt like light period cramps. So then 6 o'clock came, I went to the bathroom, and I lost my mucus plug. My water didn't break, it was my mucus plug. And then I was like, Mom, like, my mucus plug broke. I think I'm in actual labor. Call the hospital. So she called the hospital, and they were like, oh, well, your mucus plug can break for up to 2 weeks before you even go into actual labor. And I was like, great. Okay, it was probably nothing. And then literally 10 minutes later, my stomach pain went from like a 2.5 to like an 8. And I was like, an 8 is a lot for me. Like, I was in so much pain. And I was like, Mom, I'm not going to wait, like, I have to go to the hospital. And at that time, I started timing my contractions, and from the moment they started, they were 2 to 3 minutes apart, if even that. Like, sometimes they were, like, a minute apart, and I was, like, in so much pain. So I jumped in the shower, and let me just tell you, that was the longest shower of my life, because I was, like, showering myself, and then a minute, 2 minutes passed, and I was like, ugh, 30 seconds, go away. I would like have to like hurry up and shower like as fast as I could because the next one was gonna come. So then fast forward, we get to the hospital around 9 in the morning, and they put me in the triage, which is where they put you before you get admitted into labor and delivery. So they put you in the triage room to check your contractions, to see if you're dilated, to see if your water's broken. So they did that, and I was like, I couldn't even sit down. Like, I was just in so much pain, and I was like, this is so bad. Like, oh, by the way, if you're pregnant and watching this, do your labor and delivery paperwork beforehand, because you're going to be in so much pain and not want to do it, like, at that time. You're going to be like, forget it, I'm not doing paperwork, but you have to, so make sure you do it beforehand. So, yeah, anyways, fast forward, they go and check if I'm dilated, and then they told me that they couldn't find my cervix, so they were going to have to do an epidural in order for them to find my cervix, because it was just painful when they would go in and check it. And I was like, I am not getting an epidural unless I'm having this baby today. And they're like, okay, let me get another nurse in here. So then they get another nurse, and the nurse checked me and was like, oh, she's like 5 centimeters dilated. And I was like, are you serious? Because 2 days before that, I had a doctor's appointment, and I wasn't dilated at all. Like, at all. Wasn't even half a centimeter. Like, I was just not dilated. So, like, I progressed super fast, and I was like, are you serious? Okay, like, let's get this epidural on me, because I am not gonna push this baby out natural. Like, that was not my plan. I never wanted to push her out natural because it's just super painful, and I can't do that. So they're like, okay, they walk me to the next room, and they're like, oh, we have to give you an IV bag before you get your epidural, because that's just protocol. And at this point, I'm dying, like, not literally dying, but I feel like I'm in so much pain. My contractions, like, on the little monitor were, like, at 150. Like, I'm not being dramatic. Like, they were insane, and I was barely even getting any breaks. Like, they're, like, menstrual period cramps on steroids, like, by 1,000. Like, they're just so painful. And I was like, hurry up, get this epidural, because they also were like, we don't know how fast this is going to go, so if you want an epidural, you should get it now, because you seem to be progressing very fast. And I was like, okay, just give it to me. So they put the IV in me, then the anesthesiologist comes and inserts my epidural, and then inserts it wrong. And he's like, I inserted your epidural wrong, I'm going to take it out and put it back in. And I was like, okay, go ahead. Like, what am I going to do? So then takes it out, puts it back in. In all honesty, I'm not going to sit here and be dramatic. The epidural did not hurt at all. And I don't know if that's because I just was in excruciating pain from the contractions that I just didn't feel it, but the epidural did not hurt, and I was terrified to get it. But if you're getting epidural, there's no shame in it. Get your epidural. It doesn't hurt, and it's supposed to work, but in my case, my epidural didn't work. So don't get scared by that. But my epidural didn't work. It worked for about an hour, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. Like, yes, vote yes for epidural, because this is great. But after that first hour, by 11 o'clock, my contractions were so painful. The epidural was not working, again, because he inserted it wrong the second time too. So it was just not in right, and I just let it be, and I was literally in so much pain. And I think I've said that like about 1,000 times, but it's just so painful. Like, childbirth is just so painful. But it's all worth it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's all worth it. Like, you forget about like what it actually felt like because you're just so in love with your baby. So they come and check me. My water broke probably around 10:30, and then they realized that I was dilated to an 8, and I had an infection. So I developed an infection that caused me to have a fever. So then they put me on antibiotics, and yeah, they took me on antibiotics, but I felt really, really like sick. Like, I felt like I had the flu because I was just in so much pain. My body was aching, and then having a fever while you're in labor is not the deal because you're already hot, and it's just so, like, I didn't want anyone even touching me. Like, that's just how uncomfortable I was, and I just like laid down and like just focused like on nothing, just try to basically put myself to sleep because it was just so painful. But anyways, 2 o'clock came, and I was fully dilated and supposedly ready to push. So I started pushing around 2:30, 3, and I pushed for about 5.5 hours until they told me that I needed a C-section. So in total, I labored from 2 in the morning to like her birth was 18 hours, which I'm not complaining about because some people labor for like 30 hours. And honestly, it goes by super fast. Like, it didn't even feel like it was 18 hours. Like, by the way, I don't know about anyone else, but I was not hungry or thinking about food at all because there was like a little portion where I was nauseous, and they say you get nauseous when you get closer to pushing the baby, and I did. So I was not thinking about food one bit, so don't worry about, oh my gosh, I'm not able to eat. Don't eat either because you probably will throw up. Just saying. So yeah, they realized that my bone was in the way and that she wasn't going to be able to come out natural. And I don't know why it took them 4.5 hours to realize that she wasn't going to come out the natural way. But it took them that long. They messed with my catheter so many times, pulled it out, put it in, pulled it out, put it in, and it was just a mess. Like, I don't think it should have taken that long for them to realize that I got a little bit disrupted. But anyways, so emergency doctor came in and was like, how long have you been pushing it for? They told him 4.5 hours, and they're like, okay, I'm sorry, but you're gonna need a C-section. And I was just, at that point, it was like 8 o'clock at night, and I was just like, it's okay, go ahead, I've had enough today, like, just do it if you need to do it. Because there was another option for them to do a vacuum, like an assisted vacuum, to get her out the natural way, but there was going to be a lot of complications with that there was a chance to have a lot of complications. So I said, just do the C-section. Like, you need to do what's the safest thing for the baby. I don't even care about myself right now. Like, just take care of the baby. So then they came in, prepped me, took me like this weird sponge bath thingy, and then took me into the surgery room. My husband got to go with me, which was very comforting because I'd probably would have been like 30 times worse if he wasn't there, but I'll tell you why. So then we get in there into the C-section room. They put me on the operating table, and then it's the same anesthesiologist from the morning that is in my surgery at night, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna go bad. Like, in my head I was already like, this isn't gonna go good because he's the same anesthesiologist, but whatever, God, you got this, God, don't worry, I'm gonna be okay. That's what I kept trying to tell myself. And all I said was like, can you just give me nausea medicine because I don't want to throw up while I'm being cut open. I was like, don't worry, we're going to give you numbing medicine, nausea medicine, you'll be fine. So they did it, and then they did like this little test on me on like my stomach to make sure that I was numb. And I told him that I was not fully numb, that I can feel the pinches, and he really didn't believe me. He was like, oh, well, you're supposed to feel pressure. And I was like, no, I feel like the actual pinch. And then he was like, oh, it'll kick in soon. So I was just like waiting for it to kick in, and then the doctor comes in and just says, okay, we're going to start, and starts cutting. And I start screaming, and I'm like, I can feel it, I can feel it. And then the anesthesiologist was like, what? You can feel it? No, you're feeling probably pressure. I was like, this is not pressure, I can feel the cutting. And the doctor was like, well, I can't stop. Like, it's too risky if we stop. Like, just give her more medicine. So they gave me more numbing medicine. And I felt like the first, like, probably 2 to 3, like, incisions in my stomach, and it was painful. Like, I'm pretty sure that you guys can imagine it. It was painful, and probably the worst experience of my life. And my husband just sitting there like, what do we do, you know, because like in this moment it's a bittersweet moment. Like, our baby's about to be born, but then again his wife is in excruciating pain, saying she can feel a surgery. Like, he was super stressed out, I'm sure. It was an emotional time, you know. So then the anesthesiologist put in more numbing medicine, but then he overly numbed me. And when you have a C-section, you're supposed to still be able to move your arms, move your head, pick up your head, feel yourself swallow. I had none of that. I could only move my head like this, like side to side. I couldn't pick up my arms. I couldn't feel myself swallowing, so I thought I wasn't breathing. I thought I was dying, so I started screaming and saying, I can't feel myself swallow, I can't breathe. And they kept telling me, it's okay, your numbers are still okay, you're okay. I'm like, no, I can't move. Like, it was horrible. Like, I hate anesthesia. Like, it was just so bad. And I just remember like turning my head like back and forth, looking at him, saying, am I okay, am I okay, like, am I dying? And they just kept saying, no, like, you're gonna be okay, don't worry. And then At this point, the baby's already out. Like, they were taking the baby out. I can hear her cry, and I'm trying to like focus on like the baby, but I just couldn't help but feel like I wasn't breathing. I couldn't feel myself swallow. Like, I didn't know how to breathe. Like, I couldn't breathe. And so the baby comes out. They didn't even show me the baby, I think because I was just having like a horrible surgery that they were just like, let's not, you know? So then Richie went to go cut the umbilical cord, and he comes back and he shows me the baby, and I'm like, oh my god, she's so cute, you know? And then at that point, right after that, they put an oxygen mask on me, and then they told him that he had to leave to take the baby somewhere. And they wanted him to go so he couldn't stay in the room anymore. So he was like, what do? I was like, just go with the baby, you know, like, I'll be fine. But after that, it just felt like it was just getting worse. Like, I kept turning to anesthesiologist and was like, when is this going to be over? I can't breathe. And then towards the end, I couldn't even like talk anymore. Like, I was trying to talk and I couldn't, because that's how numb I was. And you're never supposed to be that numb during a C-section. Like, it was just bad. And then when they like put everything back in and like fix you up and stuff, like, it's so much pressure too when you're like you feel like you're doing that, you know? And I couldn't even breathe, so I was just like a mess. So yeah, that's how the C-section went. It was just a bittersweet experience. Like, I hope my next child I can have natural and not a C-section, because the C-section truly traumatized me. And I'm not being dramatic, like, I'm being fully real and telling you guys how my labor and delivery went, and it was the scariest thing when it came to the C-section. Everything else was smooth sailing, even though I had like the infection and stuff. Like, it was still smooth sailing, and I really have nothing to complain about, because I've heard like horror stories during like the actual laboring part, and labor wasn't that bad. I mean, it hurt really bad, but it also went by super fast for me. The C-section was just the most scariest part. After that, I was in recovery for about 3 to 4 hours because of my complications, and then I finally got to hold the baby about 4 hours after she was born, because my body just wasn't capable of holding her, because I started having the reactions from the anesthesia where my body was trembling and shaking, and they were not going to let me hold a baby that way. And I was out of it, in and out of it from the morphine and everything. But yeah, it was just a traumatizing experience when it came to the C-section, but I'm just glad that she's here and she was safe. And she did have a little complication when it came to like an infection. The same infection I had, she got, because my water was broken for too long, which caused me to get that infection, and she ended up getting it. And she was in the NICU for a whole week, just being treated for antibiotics. But even when she was in the NICU, she was good. She was like the healthiest baby probably there, which I'm so thankful for. So there's really nothing I can complain about besides saying the C-section was traumatizing. But that was just my experience. If you're having a C-section and you're very worried, I don't think you should be. I don't think it's going to go my way, because since mine was such an emergency, that's why I think things were a little rough, and that's why my experience was the way it was, because it was an emergency one. If you're having a planned one, I don't think there's anything to worry about. And even if it's an emergency C-section, just pray. Like, pray before you go, and everything's going to be okay. And even if remember, if you are in C-section and have the same experience I did, you're going to survive and have a sweet baby girl or baby boy, whatever you're having, and it's going to be the best experience of your life. So yeah, I just wanted to really get the labor and delivery part out there, because I wanted to share that part of the story. I am going to make another video later about my postpartum and how the next few days in the hospital were, like the first days after the baby's born and all that type of stuff. What I use for recovery, because recovering from a C-section is really painful. For me, at least, it was really painful. So I'm going to make a whole nother video about postpartum recovery and what I did and what helped me. And then probably more like breastfeeding videos, like my breastfeeding experience and just little updates like that. I am going to have like a whole portion dedicated to just baby stuff on here on this channel for all the moms to be and all that. So yeah, thank you guys for sitting down and watching this video. It's very long and probably all over there. Just bear with me. I will become a better vlogger, YouTube video maker person as I get used to it. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys soon.